The media specialist at the middle school, and we have been seeing more and more evidence of issues with social media, some good, some not so good. And since I'm the media specialist, I see both 7th and 8th grades, and I interact with security guards and teachers and counselors, so kind of have a broad spectrum of how we deal with this issue.
Yeah, so we wanted everybody to kind of get to know each other, because a part of this is going to be us helping each other come up with strategies, because we're all, yes, we are all parents, as well as some of us being teachers, and everybody's mind is better than a couple of our minds, for sure. So what we want to do is start out by just introducing yourself and maybe say the age or ages of the people who you are concerned about when you think about social media use and the reason why you're here. Okay, so the age of mine is 16.
Well, the age of mine is 38, 32, but I do have a granddaughter who is 12, and so I get a sense of what it's like through her eyes.
Okay. And then, so why don't we, I'm just going through these so to remove any duplicates. Why don't you introduce yourself and then just pick a random question and read it out loud, and we'll see if we can start out just by answering, using our brain trust here to answer them.
Okay, I'm Tom. I have a 17, 15, and 9-year-old system. And social media is useful for certain things, but I'm also terrified of it. So I'm here to learn about it.
Okay. Who else is terrified of social media?
I'm not comfortable.
Not comfortable.
I don't want to say I'm terrified, but just not
Yeah.
comfortable.
Hi, come on in. Hi. Hi.
Hello.
Oh, I was looking for the Mr. Julie. I lost.
Mr. Julie.
Yeah, I thought there was
Is he upstairs?
There's another meeting.
Sorry,
Oh,
didn't
okay.
interrupt.
Okay. Oh, well.
Where did you email me?
Yes, panic around social media, that's our very first slide, so we'll put that in abeyance, whoever asked that question.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and I have 13 and 11-year-old. They are not on social media because I've said no. But I feel like I need to be prepared for
Yeah.
when.
Yeah.
Why are TikTok videos so popular, and what is TikTok? How is it different from Snap, IG, etc.?
Do you want to take that one?
I'm not really that familiar with TikTok. I know
I can take that one.
Okay.
Only because that's the one social media app my daughter does have. And it seems, at least initially, as the most like lighthearted, enjoyable, entertaining type of app for the kids. They, without going into too much, like you can choose private so that you're not sending anything out to anyone other than who you choose as your friends. But it's usually like dance related, like karaoke related, and they're just real short, almost like karaoke clips, you know?
Yeah. And
I guess a lot of moms do it. I don't know this, but a lot of moms do it. And so they kind of go viral that way too. I mean, like, it seems to be many ages of people that are enjoying TikTok.
Does it have to be like music videos or like?
Well, now I just read an article that doctors are starting to try to put things on TikTok in order to get, I don't know, I'm gonna tell you, I read that
Because of the
because how
audience?
busy I am. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed the why.
To remind people to take medications.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it does have such a wide reach. I do know that for my daughter, like, she learns about a lot of new music out there, like,
Yeah.
she's not listening to the radio, she's not even really listening to Spotify anymore. Like, she learns about music from what she hears on TikTok.
Uh-huh.
So,
Okay.
that's been my foray into social media. So, okay, I don't know if, it says, my kids are getting older and are interested in social media. I'd like to be more informed about the do's and don'ts.
Okay, yeah, that's what, whoever wrote that question, that is exactly what we're here to do. Not so much do's and don'ts, but definitely do's. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're introducing ourselves real quick. No problem. And at saying what the age or ages are of the people who we're concerned about and the reason why we're here.
Okay, so it's Megan Hensley. I got an 8th grader, Devin, and a 11th grader. And just knowing, looking for some practical tips on limiting things and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, get that. Do you want to
Yeah, sure.
read a question? Yeah, we all had questions and
And I'll send-
randomly being read. Yeah.
The question is, how can we support parents and families in the classroom at school?
Oh, okay. In relation to social media,
So like if parents are limiting social media or like screen time at home, how do we make sure that we're kind of honoring that with assignments that maybe we're sending home to kids or with what we're doing in the classroom? If they're only allowed screen time for X amount of hours and we're using some of that time at home or school, how do we kind of make sure that we're on the same page for the kiddos?
oh yeah, that would definitely be at the high school level for sure, and I would say probably at the middle school level, because my kiddo just went through the middle school. That would mean an email to the parents, an email to the teacher, even an email to all the teachers. I mean, that no teacher that I know of in this entire school system has a problem with hearing from parents. On the contrary. So, yeah, that would definitely be, getting on the same page about stuff like that is an email away. Adam, you wanna read one?
Sure.
Are there any more? Oh, okay, we're done. Great. So,
Excuse me, do we get a chance to?
oh yeah, sorry.
I went to the middle school. I saw her when I was leaving at 5:40. I'm like, I'm coming to your thing at 6:30. I'm like,
Oh,
there.
and you were at the
That's
middle
my
school
fault.
for
I
it?
didn't read the fine print. I just thought
Oh, okay.
corals, middle school.
Oh, okay, so you wanna introduce yourself?
I'm Emily Geyer, a parent of a high schooler, and I work at the middle school as a social worker.
Oh, okay. And do you have a specific question that you want answered tonight?
I'm just really interested in this topic
In this-
and phones and
In general.
I'm, super interested in completely banning the phones at the middle school and figuring out a way to do that. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
collecting
Data?
information, data, and thoughts about that.
Okay. So Deb, do you wanna start?
Okay. Why are we here? Keeping up with our kids' social media can feel like this.
And here it comes. Momentarily. This is just a
That's what it
cute
feels like
introduction, so you can keep on going.
Basically, what we're finding is as soon as we find out about one particular form or one particular app, there's always something else. So one thing that was mentioned already tonight is there is this TikTok, which is a little different than some of the other apps. So what we're trying to do is figure out how to get comfortable with something that is very, very different than what we grew up with. And the other thing is, it's not like something we can say, okay, put this away and you're not gonna have to use it. It seems to have infiltrated to almost every aspect of our life. It's in our schools, we're using it for medical purposes, like if you go to UH, there's a My Chart. Everything you use now includes some kind of digitization. A lot of doctors now even have like Facebook pages. So the whole fact that social media is a part of our life is something that we're not going to be able to get around it. Now we have to figure out basically how to manage it. What kind of impact is it having, how to manage it within our own home, and then also how to manage it within the peer group that our children have.
Yeah, that's for me, keeping it on top of what my kids, what my kiddos' friends have on their phones. That's the issue, because of course my kid always wants to have what everybody else's kiddo has. So it's a race to the bottom, and that little video there was supposed to be a mouse spinning on a wheel. It was just a little illustration there. But on the other hand, when I framed this whole question in terms of we are trying to teach our children to be responsible adults, and this is part of that. Learning how to use digital technology, learning how to use your phone and all of these possibilities in a responsible adult way, that's a big part of it. And then that's when I start calming down. Wait a second. There we go. Yes, so we wanted to start out just to let everybody here know these are the policies that are in the handbooks, and this is what they say. Can everybody read it?
Yes.
Okay. So for digital use, especially now that we've gone one-to-one, and that's our definition of bullying and harassment. And that's what the Shaker district policies are when it comes to that.
And there's a reason why we chose to go one-to-one. We wanted a system that was equitable, so we wanted everyone to have the same computer. And also, if everyone has the same device, then the district IT department also has the ability to prepare the appropriate firewalls to allow the correct apps, to block apps that we don't want. They have a way to log in and they can tell us, who's the last person to log in. So it's like allowing them a playground with boundaries. And since we all are using the same device, that's one of the reasons why we decided that we have some parents who even asked about, well, why can't my kid use their own device? Well, they can use their own device at home, but we really would recommend not having your child bring their own independent device so we can do the kinds of monitoring and be responsible and teach them to be responsible too.
And this is also a possible answer to the question that we had about limiting screen time, because you can also say which screens. If you say on the school screen you can have a lot of confidence that it's not going to be, God forbid, an adult entertainment website or anything like that, or that they're going to run up huge bills by
It
buying
blocks a lot of
everything.
ads.
Yeah, by buying everything that they see. So you can, for instance, say that time is not as limited as the entertainment time. Yeah.
So does this mean, or maybe there's another page that they don't address phones separate from computers in the
No.
policies?
No, it's one. It's digital use for a
Everything digital.
reason.
Well, but then it says all computers, so I just wasn't sure if
So
that
that's,
is,
yeah,
that
that's
includes
bullying.
phones?
So it doesn't really say, do we have a policy that says you're not allowed to have your phone in the classroom, period? No, we don't, right?
No, we don't. A lot of teachers use them. And
Even still
like
middle
I
school?
used them, in my German class all the time. There's a great teaching tool on Kahoot, and I use that a lot. So they are of use. In general, you're not supposed to do anything in a classroom without the teacher's permission. So it's sort of a blanket thing that way, yeah?
Is Kahoot on the Chromebooks? Can they
You can
access?
get, they can.
They can access it, yeah.
So they don't need, there's absolutely no reason for a child to have a phone at the
No.
middle school,
Not
for
anymore.
instance.
No.
Okay.
Not anymore.
And that was the other reason why the one-to-one was
Yeah.
so
Right.
important, because we did have teachers who were allowing the use of a cell phone because they were using it for that purpose. Well,
Right.
now, since we have devices, you don't necessarily have to do that. We do have teachers, though, that have phone banks so that when kids come into the classroom, they can put their phones in banks. And we have some teachers who religiously do that.
Right, we just don't have a policy that
No,
all
there's
teachers
not a,
should do
there's
that.
not a building-wide policy, and to my knowledge, no district-wide policy.
Yeah. Now, here's a quote in the New York Times, and everybody here, when this video gets uploaded, the presentation will also be uploaded, and every single one of these is linked within the presentation, and also there are resource slides at the end that I'll show you. So this was in the New York Times. This was less than 2 weeks ago. So the latest research, they did a meta-study of 75 other studies about the association of anxiety and depression with increased social media and phone use. And they found I want to get this quote exactly right, small and inconsistent link. So yes, there is a rise in depression and anxiety among teenagers. Yes, of course, there is a rise in social media and phone use among teenagers. This is correlated, not causal, according to the evidence that we have. And there were, I don't remember how many tens of thousands of teenagers altogether. So it's easy to panic, but according to the New York Times, we shouldn't be panicking. We should be aware, but not panicking.
And it's obvious that there's something societal going on in order to make these things happen. But what the study was trying to say is there doesn't seem to be a cause and effect between the use of media, digital media and social networks and depression and anxiety and the increased suicide rate among young people.
Now, the way I like to think about social media use is that it's adolescence on steroids. It's things that would have happened anyway, but as Lisa D'Amour says, and you guys probably all know that she's a New York Times columnist and best-selling author who is also a Shaker mom. The problem is that you have an audience, and just like if there's, two kids arguing and other kids start coming around, well, when two kids start arguing on social media, it's not just the kids in the immediate vicinity who are the audience for that. So it's an accelerator. It's it makes the whole problem much bigger. Yeah.
It amplifies it.
Yeah.
The audience is exponentially larger.
Yeah, and I spoke to an assistant principal at the high school and security guards at the high school, and they all said that social media is involved in a lot of the major disputes, but as a tangent. So for instance, what did the security guards said, they argue back and forth on social media and then they want to settle it in school. So that's an extra dimension that we didn't have before, but it's not a phenomenon of people arguing back and forth. The rumor mills that used to happen when we were in high school, somebody says to somebody that she said something about something else. This is obviously a much bigger, quicker, speed of light phenomenon. Does anybody have anything to share about this specific problem right now? Yeah?
Well, I could pick out any day of the week that I meet with kids. I'll pick out last Tuesday when I met with 5 kids. and 5 kids had something to say about a peer conflict that was being exacerbated or had started through either, it's not just social media, texting, and that it happens in the school, that they continue on, you know, they're in school and they're texting, so-and-so,
Each other,
fight
yeah.
at lunch, let's meet. So I would definitely say, sometimes it's tangential, and sometimes it is the fuel that lights a fire that might have been put out when it was only a spark with the social media. And their access, constant access to phones and constant communication to one another through that avenue absolutely is centrally involved in many of the, not just conflicts, but social emotional distress
Yeah.
that the kids are experiencing at the middle school. I don't work at the high school, so I'm not going to
And it
speak
might,
to that.
yeah, it might be because, I know you were talking to social, security guards at the high school, and what happens is, socially, they're a little more adept
Right.
at the high school.
Yeah.
So what would happen is, at the middle school, I'll ask for a bathroom pass. And when I go to the bathroom pass, I'll take my phone with me, and so I'm doing more real-time stuff.
That
Which is-
happens at the high school too.
Which is probably happening far more than it's happening at the high school.
Well, they text each other and tell them to
Right,
meet me
meet
in the
me,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
bathroom.
saying, meet me there.
That happens all the time.
You know, so,
Yeah.
just developmentally, how they do things is a little different. So it may be more tangential at the high school and more incendiary at the middle school.
So I'm just curious, since we're on this topic and there have been so many issues with fights in the middle school, has that something, and I don't want to get too much off
Yeah.
tangent because I don't know if you all have middle schoolers, I do. Has it been considered at an administrative level to just say no phones? Like, I also substitute
Yeah.
teach, and I've been in the middle school, and as a sub, if there isn't a policy, it's almost impossible to take away their phones. The kids are literally sitting there on YouTube watching what I would consider highly inappropriate things nonstop, or texting, or going into that, you know. So has it been considered to just say, no, you cannot have them, period?
I would say that it's being
It's
considered,
being considered.
it's being
What's it
considered.
gonna take to move that forward?
Anyone can join my protest and anyone can join me in lining up at the, I mean, I talk to administrators all the time. I've talked to her about it all the time. I'm really trying to make
Great.
the push, whereas before, the response, which was, you know, understandable, it would be a very difficult thing to accomplish. So I understand the barriers, but the most common response is that we get a lot of pushback from parents.
Yeah.
Of course, we'd get the pushback from students, but that we'd get a lot of pushback from parents, and so I
About,
don't think
like,
that's.
I need to call and say I'm gonna pick up my kid for
Well,
a
that's
doctor's
just no
appointment.
longer a viable, it never really
Excuse.
was a viable reason, but especially
But
if
is
they
that
have
what
the
they're
Chrome.
referring to, that parents would push back?
Just that there would be, that it has become normal for parents to assume they can access their kids at any time, and it has become expected for kids to be accessible anytime and to access. But every classroom has a phone, the office has phones, the hallway has a phone.
Library
And
has
now-
2 phones.
And now they have Chromebooks, so I think the issue of teachers need to use it for Kahoot. So it's time to re-explore, and I think, for me,
Email your kid.
I'm just speaking to me, about me, but as a, a mental health and professional, I'm going to the mat on this, and I'm, whoever wants to join me on it, but I'm now pursuing it hugely, because I think it's time to do so now that they have one-to-one Chromebooks.
Well, and I think that's a great point, if maybe we get the word out and educate parents that, because parents are upset about the fights and parents are worried about the kids and, so if we can kind of educate parents that this is part of it and it is contributing to the conflicts and the, all the other stuff, then maybe parents would understand
And I think parents are very understanding if you communicate with them ahead of time, and if you were to say, send out a letter before school even started and have a meeting and say, this is the new, policy we've come up with, and this is why, and we're here to educate your kids and take care of them, and so this is the decision we're making, and if anyone wants to discuss it with us, we're here to discuss and hear. I mean, it's not something you can just do overnight and just
Yeah.
blanketly say, but it's certainly at least worth taking the steps to explore and looking at the different,
Yeah.
because there are many different options.
And I'm sorry.
So I'm sorry.
Just, yeah, to play devil's advocate in this discussion though,
And I'm
because
not
this
talking
is
about
a
the high school.
really, yeah, no, this is
Yeah.
a really meaningful discussion. We're then not teaching them how to use their phones responsibly, and the problem of organizing a fight from home will not stop. And the problem, like, I know my kiddo and friends, the less they use their phones in school, the more it happens when they come home.
But school can only control what happens at school, right?
Yeah,
It's
well,
up to
this
parents
is,
to control their
yeah,
kids'
this is
social
partly,
media life.
yeah, this is partly,
Yeah.
it's not just about control, it's about parenting, which isn't only about control, so that's why I wanted to just sort of throw that in there a little
In the
bit.
FACE Academy, even the workshops that they have a broader base to them.
Right.
We have PD sessions that are in school that are geared toward teachers, but the FACE Academy is the connection between school
And home, yeah.
and home.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this would be the group that if something was to happen to impact what happens at school, would be a good place to have that conversation start.
Yeah,
Right. I
absolutely.
mean, I think we could still teach kids healthy social media use and
Yeah.
self-control
And we still do
in
that.
health class without them having their phones at school using social
Yeah,
media.
we still do
And
that.
we
Matter of
still-
fact, there'll be a few slides that we're
About,
going to
yeah.
show about how we
Yeah.
do deal with digital citizenship, because that is part of our curriculum.
So this quote everybody sees on here, it's not all doom and gloom. There are pros as well as cons. So the very first pro that I can say right here, if you look at where this article came from, it came from Australia. And with literally a click of my mouse, I had this terrific article about all the different ways social media is impacting students in Australia. There would be no possible way that any of us would have been able to do this without going and spending a couple of hours at the library, if we had even been able to get this information. And it turns out that all the statistics for social media use in Australia are exactly the same as they are here. So this is not only is this not a shaker problem, this is not a US problem, this is a global, let's say, wealthy country problem. When we don't have other problems, when teenagers don't have other problems. Did you have something you wanted to say to that? So for instance, one positive way to use social media, and this is something that I talked a lot about with my 16-year-old, was using, and now since we're in a shaker, yeah, that's what I was afraid of. Oh well, so the Instagram that I wanted to show you right there was Greta Thunberg's Instagram. That is connecting my 16-year-old to the global fight against climate change. And her, Greta Thunberg's reactions and the things that she posts are really helping awaken social activism in my 16-year-old. We probably can't see, it says creative outlet there, that probably won't post either. My kiddo's an artist, and we talked about her first big social media account being something where she can post her art. But we talked about it a lot. And we talked about having grades for the first semester or freshman year to show that this is not going to drag away from her academic time. So that we know that she's solid with that, and then at that point, we discussed whether or not, once she got her nice GPA, at that point we discussed whether or not she thought she could manage this Instagram in addition.
Also, when we're talking about the connections, the middle school has, since we're IB, we also have a 8th grade community service project that we do every year. Well, every year, we've done it now for 2 years. 2 years in a row, we're doing it again this year. And one of the things that we're finding is that the kids are able to make connections to other kids' projects because of social media. They're aware of what other kids are doing because of social media. They're also able to use their accounts to advise people and inform people about what they want to do because of their social media accounts. So those connections are very, very important, and they're very valuable. And so what we're trying to do as educators is frame this use so they can see some productivity coming out of it and see the benefit of connections and building a broader world that's doing some positive things. So it's not necessarily all bad what they're connecting to, and we're trying to, especially because Shaker is, I think, one of the ideal districts as far as saying we cannot live in a bubble. We're using this to make sure that kids understand, yes, you can reach out, yes, please reach out, just check with your mentors, because each group has a mentor, and get this okay, because we want to make sure that everything that you're doing is okay and you're safe and those kinds of things. But we are using social media for all our 8th grade groups.
And expressing the positivity about it removes from us the accusation that you just hate social media because you're old, right? So when we know, when we, like this oxytocin brain hormone about feeling connected to other people, this actually is a stress reliever. So we're going to show you a video, I think because we got started so late, we're probably going to cut down on the number of videos we're showing you. But the oxytocin is what makes you feel good when you get hugged. And there are studies about how oxytocin is released when you are on social media and feeling connected to people you don't even know. It feels like a hug to your brain. Cons: cyberbullying, predation, addiction. Everybody, or does anybody here know what FOMO is? FOMO stands for fear of missing out. And it is not just a teenage phenomenon. It's going through the, you know, they've had Facebook people our age dealing with FOMO. And that is, of course, a stress inducer. When you feel like your life is not as satisfying as somebody else's life that they are presenting when they're going like this, and you know, making all the selfies and posing them and